Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Warpforge, and today I'm going to be doing yet another tier list, and this is going to be none other than a Warlord tier list for the current meta. Now, we haven't been too deep into the season yet, but I think we can finally see some top contenders for the strongest Warlord. Now, currently the ladder is very diverse, so that really has affected, in a way, how you would rank these Warlords, and it also has affected how I decided to rank these. So what I decided to do is I'm making once again 5 tiers. So one is going to be the strongest, which is going to include the warlords that are definitely a tad bit stronger than the rest, and you can probably find the most success while playing them, and they have the most let's say positive matchups in the current meta where almost every faction is being played. The very good ones are also strong picks, like good and solid picks that are going to be doing very good for you. Then there are the good picks, which are not particularly strong. You'll have to work more to win games with them, but they are still in a good spot, which means that they can still be played without feeling that you are playing something vastly underpowered. Then we're going to be talking about the subpar warlords, the ones that are maybe not in the worst spot, but they still need more attention, they still need more buffs or changes in order to actually become competitive. And then we have the bad tier, which is going to be reserved for the worst warlords, the ones that currently are in a terrible spot and really need some help. Now, before we begin, as always, please consider that this is my personal opinion. You might disagree, and I actually love it when you guys disagree, because that means you can leave some interesting comments in the chat. So please, if you disagree or even agree with the tier list, leave a comment and tell me what you think. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into it, and let's start off with none other than the Orcs, and we are going to take Ghazghkull Thraka first. Now, Ghazghkull, I think, will comfortably sit at the very good tier, not the strongest though. So the thing with Ghazghkull is that his armor playstyle still works. Orcs still have like a ton of removal, and they still have their armor, they still have some cool AoE, they still have Makari, so Orcs are still in a very good spot currently. Ghazghkull is still very strong. There are, however, now a couple of builds that can counter him. He's not really that good when dealing with swarming warlords, the ones that just keep rebuilding the board over and over again, because then he just runs out of steam. Or he's also bad when fighting very control-heavy warlords like Imhotep, for example. But other than that, he has very good matchups, mostly into some other stuff. And even like when you're playing against some swarm warlords, if you get a good hand, if you get a good roll, get your armor early, you can still be a menace to deal with. Another reason why I think he doesn't go into the strongest tier is because that is reserved for another orc, which is currently Gruk. Now, Gruk has been a powerful warlord always, in a way. It's just that sometimes Ghazghkull would just outshine him. Now, he is definitely the strongest orc warlord. The main reason is due to his card draw, and the build that people are running currently is a little different from Ghazghkull. It's a mix of control aggro, where Ghazghkull just plays full control and basically plays for attrition. Gruk manages to draw a lot of his tools very early, and he plays a more aggro style. He deals more damage, he buffs the damage of his troops, and overall he is in a better spot because there are only a few things that can stand up to him realistically currently, because he is just the ultimate orc package. And if you want to see some success with this, success with orcs, you should definitely be hopping on that Gruk train. Now, I do believe the previous War Master also got there by using Gruk in the Ultramarine meta. I might be wrong, but overall this guy is in a super spot and is doing really well. Now, Gordrang, on the other hand, he has been nerfed and he has lost one of his greatest tools, which was to perma-lock people in the stun, but I think he still comfortably places in the good tier because he can still be played as strong aggro, so he can deal 4 damage every turn, and on top of that, with like Makari and Propakili, he can still deal an insane amount of damage. which I think people do tend to underestimate because he lost his main shtick, which was to stun everything. Most probably that was removed because of the sisters, because it was just too much of a hard counter for the sisters. So, yeah, I still think that he's good. He can still definitely be played, but he's not on the level of Grok, and Gaskell is still a little bit better. Now, Boss Zakstrug is going to remain in the bad tier for a long time. He has been bad for some time. I think Everguild really needs to give this Warlord some love, because this guy is just not good. He's just not doing it. Mostly because the Orcs have the better version of Zakstrug. Why would you play Zakstrug when you have Gordrang, right? So, like, this gives him 1 armor and 1 damage, while Gordrang can just gain 2 damage. So Gordrang is just doing the whole aggro style that Zakstrug does, but better. And, well, it's a little bit better now, because when you would play Boss Zakstrug into Gordrang, you would always lose because of the stun, because you would be stun locked. But now it's a little bit better, but still not enough to just put him out of the bad tier. Unfortunately, I think he is still going to remain as a bad Warlord. Next is Abaddon. Abaddon is still going to go into very good. Now, Abaddon, it has gotten a little bit difficult for Abaddons, because Tau and Eldar are quite popular currently. So these are not the favorable matchups, mostly for Abaddon. But other than that, he is still what he used to be. He still has the perfect energy dump. And if somebody don't know what that means, it means that when you have extra energy, he can just press an ability and gain something from it, which means that he can give himself health. If there's no target for his dark gifts, he's very durable. He can play mid-range, he can play aggro. He has some very powerful tools still, like the Venom Crawler, Hellbrute, Murderous Desire. So he's still really good. It's just that he's definitely not placing in the strongest tier, because there are things currently that are just better than him. Now, Harken the World Claimer is gonna go into subpar. I think he's a little better than Zakstrug, but he also suffers from a lot of things. One thing being that he basically does the same thing as Abaddon does, but worse. He gives random dark packs just like him, but he gives the random dark packs to random troops. He does get that nice blast, but every time he just has to face bash into whatever whenever he wants to do that. So he already has lower HP than Abaddon. He's way less durable, and he has some nice matchups. Like, he's better against the Tau or even the Eldar, I would say, than Abaddon, but overall he's not a reliable Warlord currently, and not something that maybe you want to go for. Galaron unfortunately places into bad, and that's very sad for me, because I do love this Warlord. I love the voice acting, the art, the idea, everything, but I just think that his ability currently for 2 energy might be a little bit too weak, mostly because Galaron doesn't really... I don't think maybe it's his ability that is the problem. I think the main problem is that it just doesn't tie into the Chaos playstyle at all. Every other Warlord in the Chaos roster has a Dark Pact, and Galaron is the only one who cannot offer Dark Pacts to his troops, and that makes him have like very bad synergy with the whole Chaos roster, because most of those things just live off Dark Pacts. So yeah, that is pretty much what is his problem, even though he could be nice against the Tau because it can take out drones and draw cards. But other than that, I think that he's just in a bad spot. Sylar is going to be subpar as well. But honestly speaking, I think, surprisingly enough, he's better than Harken World Claimer. So I'm not sure if Harken World Claimer goes into bad and Sylar goes into subpar. I actually think Sylar goes into subpar and Harken goes into bad, because Sylar is a little bit better than these guys, because his ability is way better. Sometimes his ability can really win you games. But the problem that I see with that is that he's just too RNG dependent. He's like a casino build. You sometimes get lucky and go crazy, but sometimes you just don't get lucky and it shits. But it's still better than the other two, so I think I'm going to move down Harken to bad and place Sylar into subpar. Even though I think if you're a new player, you might be facing a lot of Harken, because Chaos is in general popular and he's the default Chaos Warlord. He's definitely not that good. Now let's move on to the kings of the previous season, which are the Ultramarines. And I am going to do something that you guys probably might disagree with, but I'm going to place Marneus Kalgar as well as Varo Tigurius into good, because I think that 2 builds with Ultramarines can work, which is the Big Marine build as well as the aggro build still works. Maybe the vehicle build just got knocked down, and these 2 are the best ones to do that, because Kalgar has highest HP and a card draw, while Varro still has the ability to gain tactics on demand, as well as trigger codex more effectively because of his flexibility with his Warlord power. I think that like they're better than Uriel and Chaplain, which are both going to be placed in subpar. Now let me explain my rankings here. Chaplain is still alright, he still has a cool ability, but I think Kalgar is just better because he has more HP, and plus his card draw is more reliable because Chaplain can't draw cards when he has stuff on the board. He has to buff their range attack. It's a choice basically. If you have the stuff on the board, you buff them. If you don't, you draw a troop. While Kalgar can keep like flooding in troops over and over again. Same with Varro with tactics. Uriel is actually nice. He might actually go up in ranks depending on how the season goes, because he's very good against one specific, actually two specific very good characters that are currently going to be placed in top tiers. He's all right against the Eldar as well in terms of Spirit Stone breaking, but currently I just think that he doesn't have anything to outdo the other two. I would say these two are quite good. It's just people maybe don't really want to work for winning with them because like last season Ultramarines were just free wins, and after the nerfs they feel way weaker than they were. I'm not saying that they're in a very good spot, but I would definitely not put them in subpar, at least for now. The Eldar are actually in quite a good spot, and I'm going to start off with Keltalk, who's definitely going to be placing in the strongest tier. The change with Keltalk really helped, and on top of that, the fact that the Eldar can now play a Fire Prism, which is a very strong tool for destroying armored units, which the Eldar really didn't have until now. I think like one of these all of these things together really just made Anvir Keltalk very strong. And yeah, he's a hell to deal with the Reclaim the Stars, and currently I think he does take the crown as the strongest Eldar Warlord. With, I believe, Medriel Galing coming in very good, because she's doesn't really need much explanation. She's always been good. She's always been in that very good tier, not exactly making into the strongest, but still sitting at very good. And I think like the same thing might go for Eliak, but I would still place Eliak in good. Eliak is still nice. He's like the other version of Gordrang, where he can deal a ton of damage potentially. I just think that Medriel Galing perhaps is a little bit better than Eliak due to the whole summoning thing that she has going there and the high tempo. But yeah, Anvir Keltalk definitely takes the crown as the strongest Eldar. Now, when it comes to the Necrons, I think that Oricon is going to go into the strongest. As much as I hate to say it, and as much as it kind of makes me want to puke, the Scarab builds are currently one of the strongest in the game, because there's not a lot of things being played that can stop them and that can really hold them off. And currently they got the new blades that they didn't have before, so Scarabs essentially get a lethal way earlier than before. They're not only dependent on self-destruction anymore. Ever since the Annihilation command was changed, they lost their lethal range until they actually got to explosion. But now, as always, they're a cancer to deal with, and they're gonna tightly sit on the strongest spot. It's just the only downside is that it's just very boring to play. Emotech is going to go into good. I played a lot of Emotech actually this season as well, and I thought that he was trash after he was nerfed, but I don't think so. I changed up his build a little bit. I'm going to be doing a video on him. I think that he still sits at a good spot. He's still good. He still does that heavy control. He can still kick Gaskull's ass any day of the week. It's just that he lost a lot of his tools. A lot of his things were nerfed in energy and effectiveness. The Curse of the Pharaon was just gutted, so he's not in the great spot that he used to be. Emotech almost always was in a very strong or the strongest position, but currently he's suffering a lot. With Nemesor, it's very difficult, to be honest. I'm not sure if this guy goes into very good or good. Honestly speaking, I've been playing a lot of Nemesor, and I think that the Tempo Nemesor is really good because he received a lot of buffs. You have the Implacable Conqueror now. You have the change to the Undying Legions, you have the buff to your Ghost arc, and the more games I play with this guy, more I see that he's very strong. He's just not really that good to really go into the strongest tier, but I think he's still a little bit underrated. I might be exaggerating here, I don't know, but for me it feels like Zandrak is actually very strong in the current season. He just really does a lot of work, so I don't know. I think that he should be placing in a very good spot just because how much of a menace he can be if played correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. With the Tyranids, Swarmlord once again is going to be an S tier for me. The only problem Swarmlord currently has is the Scarab, so more Scarabs being played means that Swarmlord gets knocked down, but that's the issue here. Even if there's a lot of Scarabs being played, not everybody can play it due to the new ranking system. As usual, Oricon would just knock him down as well as the Eldar quite a bit. But the thing is that once again, people are forced to play different factions. So Swarmlord is still a very easy warlord to climb with. He's still pretty good and he's still pretty strong. And yeah, I think that he is still comfortably sitting at S tier, even though the Bloodthirst has been nerfed for Tyranids yet again, as well as the Hardened Biology, which is still an amazing card. With the Neurothrope, I think he goes into good. I think that overall, Neurothrope is still lacking in some areas because some other Tyranid warlords usually always manage to outscale him, but you can still play this guy. You can play him in many different ways. There's the Norn Emissary build, there's the one with the swarms, and Tyranids did get some new interesting tools as well. So I think that he is just very, very strong, and he just lacks something to put him above good. He's a strong warlord, but not good enough to just deal with the bullshit that the others have to unload. I think the same would go with Terror of Wandergast. I'm just not sure if he's very good or good. I just think that the problem with Terror is that he is kinda... I would say he's kinda unreliable in certain situations. He can really annihilate you if he gets the correct setup, but for example, when you play against him and he really doesn't get his Bloodthirst, or he really doesn't get the card that he needs, he's not that reliable. I think the consistency is the issue with this warlord, unlike Swarmlord, who is almost always consistent, so I would place him in the good tier for now. Tervagon, on the other hand, is going to go into very good. People are underestimating this warlord, especially after they added more swarm cards and the Barbgaunt has been buffed. This guy has become very powerful. It's just that people are underestimating him, and he's a little more complicated to play than Swarmlord, so I think that the Tervagon definitely deserves a very good tier right now. And if you haven't really played Tervagon, I think it's time to actually get to doing that. Shadow Sun is gonna go into good still. The Tau battlesuit decks can still function as they used to. It was nerfed, obviously, but it's still good. It's still possible to play this as you always did. It's just, once again, weaker than it used to be. It ranks around the same as these guys. It's good, but not that good. It could use some love, but then it might be in the danger of becoming overpowered. So, comfortably going to be sitting at the good spot. While Onva is definitely going to go into the strongest, and you guys might have not noticed this yet, but Tau are extremely powerful. They are really strong with the new Kroot cards, and as always, Onva is a top abuser of that. If you guys watched my stream, you could see how powerful Onva is and how easy it was to climb with this guy. I'll do a separate video on him once again as soon as I can, but yeah, he's like crazy good. So currently one of the best warlords in the game for sure. Warshaper is probably going to go into subpar. For now, as I'm watching, you could play some specific aggro build with this guy, but I think the 30 HP is just killing him. I am happy that EG decided to bring diversity in HP, which is interesting, but I just think that he's just not that reliable currently, and the other Tau warlords are just that much better than the Warshaper. Speaking of which, Commander Omezos is also going to go into very good. You guys might be surprised, honestly, because Tau received so many nerfs, right? But the drone design from the Tau, I think is like innately flawed. Basically, it's been flawed from the beginning, because it's all about like spamming the board, and whenever you play against Omazos, like the game can go out of hand very, very quickly. He's still extremely powerful, underrated, I would say. There are of course people that like warlords that can deal with him, but that doesn't change the fact that he's still very good. Every time you play against him, it feels like you're suffering. So yeah, I would put this guy into very good tier. I might be wrong once again. I'm not the biggest Tau player, but you guys let me know if you think so. For the sisters, Junith Erudita is gonna go into very good. Now, some of you might say, why don't you place her in the strongest tier? I don't think you need to place Junith in the strongest tier, since she's definitely very powerful, and the buff really made her that good. But just like every sister's warlord, she has a problem. The problem that she has is that in general, she's very reliant on getting those relics, because if the opponent can control your prayers, you might end up getting starved for faith, in which case you just lose the game. The sisters still lack hard removal tools, more than one. So even though she has received a lot of tools, I think she's just not up there with the strongest factions. But she's definitely one of those abusive ones, kind of similar to Omazos, where if she gets going, it's very, very hard to shut her down. And she also has a very powerful late game. But I think she would just place into very strong instead of the strongest. Some people still say that sisters are weak. Sisters in general, maybe, but not Junith. Junith is in a very, very powerful spot. Erika and Morvenval are a tricky thing. I would say Morvenval still goes into subpar. I have built an aggro deck with Morven that you can definitely get to work, but I still think she's subpar compared to the other sisters warlords, because she really, I mean, she does have the penitence, which in general should be the strongest thing about the sisters, but I guess it's just about the fact that she is forced to kind of play aggro while not having powerful 3-drops. The faction that doesn't have powerful 3-drops will have very big trouble going aggro. So I think that is what Morvenval is currently suffering from. Plus she has no energy dump on top of that, so kind of puts her in a bad spot. As for Erika, I would say she's good. She's not subpar for sure. She can still be played in a pretty interesting way. She can still give that health buff, and Raging Storm doesn't exist anymore, so it's a big deal. But other than that, she definitely is subpar to Junith, and she's not that good to actually be considered a very good warlord. Sisters definitely feel like they still need some work, but currently I think this is where they place. Now, guys, please let me know if you agree or disagree with my choices, and also tell me know why. I hope you enjoyed the video, and Ecclesiarch out.